Hello, Lakers fans. This is Wilson. So I wanted to check in with you guys just to talk about a few things. One of them being the list that the Ringer put out at their most recent NBA top 100 list, top 100 players. I wanted to talk about that. It came out, I think, within the last couple weeks. I wanted to talk about it. Of course, three Lakers were on it. Luka at 4. LeBron at 12 and Austin Reeves at 54. I think Luka was slotted pretty much perfectly. But with LeBron and Austin, I think there are a few, possibly, arguably, a couple guys ahead of them that, you could argue maybe that they, shouldn't be ahead, or that they shouldn't be behind. Luka and Austin, I'm sorry, LeBron and Austin, that is. And then, so I'll start with that, and then I'll get into, I wanted to talk about today's official announcement of the Canelo and Bud Crawford fight that's set for September 13th on, it's going to be on Netflix. That was, I think, the really big news. So that's cool. I'll be able to watch it. I haven't ordered a pay-per-view, and I don't know how long. Well, since the last and only time that we talked about boxing on this podcast was when Bud Crawford fought. At least since we've been on YouTube doing video, but when Bud Crawford whipped Errol Spence, I think that's the only time since we've been on YouTube that we've talked about boxing, and it was just me and Vito giving our little 2 cents on how that fight went. But yeah, I want to say I'll say a few words about that. Not so much the announcement. I mean, it's cool that it's going to be on Netflix, but just the matchup in general. And then if there's anything else I can think of, I might, who knows, I might say a few words about it. But yeah, that list that came out from the Ringer, the top 100. I think the list overall is, well, let's see. You had Jokic at 1, Shea at 2, no argument there. Then Giannis at 3, even though, as I said, I think the Giannis is kind of reaching the point in his career where it's not even the point in his career. It's just the way the game is moving. With him not being somebody who doesn't shoot threes, his game is starting to become somewhat outdated. I feel like everybody else on this list, so like I said, Jokic, Shea, Giannis, Luka, Curry, then so Luka 4, Curry 5, Edwards 6, Halliburton 7, Mitchell 8, Brunson 9, Tatum 10, Wemby 11, and then it gets to LeBron, right? So everybody else in the top 12 is somebody who they shoot the three ball. Even Joker started shooting threes, but I think because he realized that it's just part of the game now. You got to be able to shoot threes, and the fact that Giannis doesn't, I think it kind of puts him a little bit behind the times. As dominant as he is in the paint, I just wonder if because of the way the game is played now, if you'd rather have maybe some of these guys behind him who aren't maybe quite as dominant, but team wise, if you're trying to win a championship, you'd rather have them because they shoot the three. And then, like I said, so Luka 4. So Luka's someone who, when he's healthy, he's somebody that I think will pass Giannis probably by the next time. If the Ringer does this list next year, Luka I think will be ahead of Giannis, right? Now, when it comes to LeBron, right? So LeBron was 12, and ahead of him you got Wemby. I would say Wemby is. See, Wemby, they rank Wemby ahead of LeBron based on still what's to come. LeBron is still such a fantastic player. I think based on actual merit, he should have been first team All NBA this year. The guy that they had that I feel like, because the other four spots were, you know, pretty much decided. And Joker, Shea, Giannis, and Tatum. They had Donovan Mitchell on there as the fifth guy, just because Cleveland won all those games. But I don't know, man. I think I'd rather. I mean, I might rather have LeBron James in even in 2025 than 6'3" inch Donovan Mitchell, who's never been in the conference finals, even though he's always on a good team. You know, so and I guess I don't know what the list is based on. Is it at this point? Is it? I mean, I guess it's based on like right now, right? Right now, I mean, Wemby, he's still so young, and but they didn't make the playoffs last year. Of course, I don't think they weren't gonna make it anyway. I don't think he was gonna win Defensive Player of the Year though. Obviously, in due time. I mean, next year probably he will be. Be somebody that he could possibly top five if he's healthy, right? But I just feel like right now he's a questionable one. Donovan Mitchell, all the other guys I can't really argue with except for maybe Brunson. I mean, the thing about it is that no, I'm not doing Brunson like that because Brunson can carry. He carries offenses in ways that LeBron can't do anymore, right, by himself. So I'm not gonna do Brunson like that, even though he's small. I've talked about that already. But the rest of the guys were pretty. I mean, they got Curry pretty high up here too for somebody his age. I'm not sure. I probably have Edwards ahead of Curry. But Edwards has his problems, and they have Tatum all the way down here at 10. Is that because he got hurt? I'm not sure what the exact criteria or the exact, I didn't read the fine print or whatever on what they based the list on. Is that because Tatum tore his Achilles? Is that why he's down there at 10? Because before the Achilles injury, I would have had Jason Tatum top 6 for sure. So they did probably bump him down based on Taylor's meetings. It probably would be based on things going forward with the uncertainty with his injury and whatnot. But yeah, I think LeBron. You could still make the argument that LeBron is and I've said before that I've said before. I've talked down. Let me see who else they had. Who did they have? Let me see who they had right behind LeBron. So right after LeBron, they had AD, then Durant, and then Kawhi, then Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is somebody who's gonna continue to rise. Then Evan Mobley, then Cat, Booker, Jalen Williams is at 20, right? So out of those guys, I think I probably have LeBron still ahead of those guys. So it's not bad where they had him, you know. It's just a couple guys. Donovan Mitchell is the main one, and I just a great player, but he's small, and I don't like that he doesn't. I know it's like Shane Murray told you guys to stop betting instead of complaining about the players. But, as a gambler, I just hate that the other team was so good. They had such an efficient offensive season, maybe like the most efficient, I'm not sure. But there's too many nights where he just kind of took the night off. I like guys who bring it every night no matter how good their team is, And, yeah, so I mean, and like I said, he hasn't been in the conference final, even though his team is always good. And it's good that his team is always good because that shows that he's somebody who he's a winning player in that sense. But he can't. LeBron was just in the conference finals a couple of years ago, and he's 40. He was 38. He's 40 now. So I don't know. Now, as far as Austin goes, like I said, they had Austin at 54, right? And then, so above him, going in order, they had Laurie Markkinen, 53, Julius Randle at 52, Tyler Hero at 51, Draymond Green at 50. I'm sorry, but I think Tyler Hero should be above Draymond Green. LaMelo at 49, Jalen Johnson 48, Desmond Bain at 47, Austin Reeves at 46, Zion Williamson at 45, Kyrie at 44, Dame at 43, Aaron Gordon at 42, Amin Thompson at 41, OG Anunoby at 40, Tyrese Maxey at 39, Derek White at 38. Derek White is a top 40 player. Franz Wagner at 37, Şengün at 36, Zubac at 35, Ja at 34, Trey at 33, Bam at 32, Sabonis at 31, and Harden at 30. So now when I look at that, okay, to me the question is, when it comes to these lists, yeah, sure, pretty much everybody on here is more talented than Austin, right? But the question is Austin Reeves as a scorer and a shot creator and a general offensive creator, how many of these guys, if you put Austin Reeves, and of course, roster construction matters, but generally speaking, how many of these guys are worth more wins to their team than Austin Reeves is, right? So like, would the Jazz be better if they had Austin instead of Lauri Markkanen? I don't know. It's it's tough. For sure, by the time you get to Ja, that's just another stratosphere of player, you know. But I don't know. Some of these guys, like I said, Derek White at 38, and Derek White is a fantastic player. But I'm sorry, that's too high for Derek White. I'm sorry, Derek White is not a top 50 player. He's not. He's a very good. He's a world class, like Big Mitch would say, a star in his role. Right? He's fantastic. He's a fantastic player. But I don't know. I mean, to put him in the top 40 is crazy. To have him above Tyrese Maxey, and I guess okay, definitely for sure these rankings are. If Dame is 43 and Kyrie is 44, then for sure, because they're both injured, for sure if Derek White is ahead of those guys, then for sure this is a list that is factoring in, you know, what's to come, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess this is okay. But some of these guys, I'll just name them. The ones that I would think about would be Lauri Markkanen, Julius Randle. Um, I don't think Austin is better than Tyler Hero. Like Tyler Hero is like a more talented version of Austin, basically. Can do a little, probably do a little bit. He can do a little bit more, carry a little bit more of a load. So I don't think for sure the Heat wouldn't be as good if they had Austin instead of Tyler Hero. Um, Draymond, no, like I said, no. Draymond is. I think I don't know. It just depends, bro. It's hard to say. Um, but Draymond is another one. So just Lauri Markkanen, Julius Randle, Draymond Green. Uh, shoot. Somebody like so Aaron Gordon, OG Anunoby, right? Uh, two. I mean, Aaron Gordon is. I mean, Aaron Gordon at 42 is kind of crazy. A good player, but it's crazy because Aaron Gordon, numbers wise, he had like 15-5 this year, but he played so well in the playoffs, and it seems like he does more than what his numbers indicate. And then OG Anunoby is another guy. So So I would say for sure. So I mean, Draymond, Laurie Marketing, Draymond, um, Aaron Gordon, OG Anunoby, Derek White, and maybe even Zubac. Those are how many is that? Laurie, Draymond, that's two. Aaron Gordon and OG, that's four. Derek White, that's five. And Zubac, that's six. So that's six players right there that I would say, because you're talking about non-all stars, right? You got these guys are all. I think Marketing has been an all star before, and obviously Draymond has, but you know nobody would expect them to be all stars going forward. So that's six guys right there that and you know I don't think Zoo hasn't been an all star, right? I don't think so. Well, he was fantastic. He was great this year. It was his best year, but I don't think I would put Zoo. Zoo is not a to put Zoo ahead of some of these other guys. I don't like. They have him ahead of Şengün, but I mean, if Zoo was on the Rockets instead of Şengün, I mean, Şengün has a higher ceiling than Zoo does, and I like Zoo. You know, to put him ahead of Tyrese Maxey is kind of crazy, right? I know Zion doesn't play half the time, but I mean Zion's really a better player than Zubac, right? Scotty Barnes, what he can be. Desmond Bain, Jalen Johnson, LaMelo. I'm sorry, but Zubac is not a better player than he's not a better player than those guys. He's not a player. They're probably not a better player than Julius Randle, right? I mean, let's not go crazy. I love Zubac, but come on. So yeah, definitely an interesting list, man. So shout out to the Ringer. Um, and then so the other thing was Canelo and Crawford, right? Uh, like I said, the official announcement was made today because you had official statements from Canelo and Crawford, and like I said, I'm thrilled that it's going to be on Netflix, um, because like I said, these fights $70 that I don't really have, and it's like I'll be able to watch the fight in peace. That's how it used to be back in the day. And that Turkey guy. So for those who don't know, because as I said, we've only talked about boxing like one other time on the podcast. But I'm a boxing man. I come from boxing, right? But so I have one of my good friends, Jason Wolf, who's been on here before, right? He Jason Wolf is he's one of my good friends, and he lately, like this year, he's been telling me like, you got to get back into boxing. You got to get back into boxing. This he says that this is we're in a new golden era or a new golden age of boxing, right? And I'm always just like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? And because to me, if there's no right, it's like if there's no sun, right, then then how can there be life on the planets, right? And I come from the era of boxing of De La Hoya. He passed the torch to Mayweather and Pacquiao, right? So you had megastars who they allowed for the fighters who weren't as much household names, weren't as mainstream to matter, right? So the guys and then when I was that era between 2007 and that 10 years that Mayweather Pacquiao era. I mean, I was all about boxing, and I was about boxing at every level, right? So everything that was on HBO, everything that was on Showtime, it didn't matter if it was a pay-per-view or just if it was a Showtime, it was a Showbox, or if it was HBO After Dark, I was on it, right? And but that was when you had, like I said, you had super duper stars that gave meaning to everything else and relevance to everything else that was going on, right? So beneath the Mayweather and Pacquiao level, you had all these great fighters: Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, uh, you get your Moraleses and Marquez and Barrera and Margarito, and Andre Ward, Bernard Hopkins, all these greats, right, giving us these great fights and whatnot. And that was my era. In this era, because there is no, I mean, the last real fight that did, I think a million plus buys. I guess it was that heavyweight fight. I guess between who was it? It was Wilder and Fury. Please, I mean, if I sound like a novice talking about this current era of boxing, forgive me. I promise you, I am not a boxing novice. You can go and you can look. I used to write for the Sporting News. They had a blog back in the day in 2009 called The Rumble. It was boxing and MMA. I write for that. I have my blog, theneongraveyard.com, where I used to write fight previews. I have been a boxing aficionado, right? I was part of that community with other guys in my time. Carlos Acevedo and Jimmy Tobin and those guys, Bart Berry. You know, I had a I was putting in work. You know, Tim Starks. That was my era. You know, but it's just a different era of boxing now. And you don't have, like, everybody says, Gervonta Davis. But if Gervonta Davis is the biggest star in boxing, he's not doing a million buys, you know. So what does it all mean, right? And like even Crawford and Spence only did like 600,000 pay-per-view buys. When Mayweather and Pacquiao were fighting, that was a big deal. How many pay-per-view buys you got? We used to talk about that all the time. Every time they would fight, it was like, hey, Pacquiao did 1 well before it did 1.4 million. So who's the bigger draw? I gotcha. It was a war between those two fan bases, right? And now it's different. I mean, it's not different because you have Haney and you have uh, Davis, and these fighters at that level who are basically they're the fill-ins, I guess, for what my era had, but they just don't do the numbers, and they don't uh, bring in the people like that. You know, um, they don't galvanize the public in that way that Mayweather and Pacquiao did, that Oscar De La Hoya did, and the numbers reflect that. Um, but yeah, I think it would be Fury and Wilder. I'm not even sure, bro. Was it? I don't know, bro. Fury and Usyk, I don't know. Like I said, bro, this, and I mean, it's crazy. It always amazes me when I watch, uh, like I said, when Jason would tell me this is a new golden era, and the way people talk about this heavyweight era of Fury and Wilder and Joshua, and then what Usyk is doing, and act like it's something like, bro, please knock it off. When I was a kid, it was Tyson, it was Holyfield, it was Lennox Lewis, it was Riddick Bowe. These are Hall of Fame. These are greats who put up numbers at the box office. So like to talk about some Tyson Fury, yeah, he's a great fighter, but and Deontay Wilder he's a physical specimen, and the other kid Joshua, he's a physical specimen, and he should have been the best. But maybe if you put all three of those fighters together, you'd have somebody who could hold a candle to a Lennox Lewis, a Mike Tyson, a Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, like I said. Uh, but these guys, they're not that. I'm not gonna quite put Riddick Bowe in that category, but he gave us great fights also. Um, and don't even get me started on the before my time, in the '70s. I mean, come on, you know. But yeah, man, it's like they don't do the numbers like that anymore. So it's like to me, it doesn't matter. So I don't pay that much attention to it anymore, right? And so, uh, but this Canelo and Crawford fight, it does have my attention somewhat, even though I'm not sure how competitive it will really be, right? Because you know, I mean it's been it's been it's been done before what Crawford is trying to do, right? I think Crawford's only fought one fight at 154, right? So technically he's moving up two weight classes to fight Canelo, right? Now, of course, what he's trying to do basically, if he accomplishes this feat, it'll put him up there with Henry Armstrong and Manny Pacquiao, the other great. I mean, well, the two greatest weight jumping fighters. Of course, Pacquiao, an 8 division champion, and Pacquiao's making a comeback. By the way, he'll make a comeback shortly after he's inducted into the Hall of Fame in a couple months. And then you have the other, you have Armstrong, of course. Henry Armstrong on the top. If you're talking pound for pound fighters, right? Meaning you're taking Muhammad Ali, and you're saying, okay, Ali was a heavyweight, so you're not including him in the pound for pound rankings, right? Pound for pound, Henry Armstrong probably the second greatest fighter of all time after after Sugar Ray Robinson. Of course, Robinson is the consensus. But after Robinson, it's probably Henry Armstrong. And then you have Willie Pep and people talking about Benny Leonard, these types of guys. My personal favorite, Roberto Duran. Duran is top 10, and I think he's closer to 5 than he is to 10 for sure. So uh, people like that. So not just Armstrong and Pacquiao, but also Duran, of course. Those are the three greatest fighters as far as moving up in weight classes and taking on bigger guys. You had Armstrong, who won he held simultaneously the featherweight, the lightweight, and the welterweight championship, and tried to win the middleweight championship, but he lost the decision. You had, of course, Pacquiao, 8 division champion, uh, started at 106 pounds, actually, won his first bout at flyweight. Became famous fighting Barrera and Morales and Marquez at 126 and 130. And then one fight at 135 against David Diaz. One fight jumps up to from 135 to 147 to send Oscar De La Hoya into retirement. Comes back down to 140, flattens Ricky Hatton in the second round. And I always remember where I was when I was watching that fight because Pacquiao got, of course, knocked out cold. And my dad was sitting. I was in the living room with my dad and my grandmother. My dad was sitting to the right, and he was saying, "Oh my goodness, he's in trouble." I always remember, what's his name, saying when they were, because they were, Hatton was flat on his back at first, and it seemed like he was, gasping for air, and they started to try to turn him on the side. As I understand now, was to try to open up the airwaves so that he could breathe better. And you heard Jim Lampley. I always remember Jim Lampley going, and I'm not sure they're doing Haddon any trouble, any favors by moving him around. I'm not a medical guy, but he is in very bad straits there. And Emmanuel Stewart going, he's in bad shape. And my dad was sitting there, and my dad was going, oh, he's in trouble. And I was almost about to have a panic attack because I thought but that was like kind of that was like, I hadn't seen anybody get knocked out like that at that point, right? So I was really worried for Haddon. But as it turns out, I mean, people get, most of the time, 99% of the time, no matter how hard the knockout looks, the guy is, it's temporary, right? And then, Pacquiao, then, of course, the Cotto fight um, after that. And that was really from there it was, you have the Margarito fight, Josh Quaddy. Ended up fighting Mayweather. But that run from from Oscar through Cotto will never be forgotten by anybody who was there at that time. Remembers what that felt like to witness that. And then you had of course, Duran. Like I said, my personal favorite of the old school fighters, I should say. Mayweather is my favorite of all time, but Duran is my favorite of the old school fighters. And of course, Duran, who ruled the '70s at lightweight, and then moved up in 1980. And Ray Leonard at the time, 5'10", now a true welterweight, 74-inch reach, 24 years old. Duran was 29 when he fought Leonard, and had already fought over 70 somewhat. I think it was somewhere in the low 70s of fights that he already had. So Leonard way bigger, way younger, way fresher, and Duran beat him toe to toe over 15 rounds in Montreal, right? Also won at 154 against Davey Moore, and 160 against Iron Barkley. He beat Davey Moore to a pulp. Moore was never the same. Against bigger, younger guys, Duran just, and then, um, you know, also, the Tommy Hearns that was just, that was a 54, I think. That was a step too far, but he's, only guy to take Marvin Hagler a full 15 at 160 pounds. Duran was 5'7". And he's up at 160 fighting Marvin Hagler and taking Hagler the distance. Only time. No, I'm sorry. Let me not say that. But yeah, yeah. Only person to take Hagler to all 15 rounds at middleweight, I believe. Right. So Duran was just incredible. And basically, what Crawford is trying to do is he's trying to do the same thing. He's trying to move up in class. He's trying to move up. He's trying to move up in weight to face a fighter in Canelo Alvarez, and I would argue that other than Duran beating Leonard, and I know Canelo is like 35 now, right? But he's a fighters these days, like in every sport, they age better than they did in the past, right? So Canelo moving up to what was that? Was that it? 75 that Canelo fought that other guy. That was a step too far, but it's a step too. It could be a step too far also for Crawford to move up to 168 pounds. And what is Crawford, like 5'8", right? So when Canelo was fighting at light heavyweight against Bivol, um, that was taking it too far, right? But he tried it and he failed. It happens, right? Like when Oscar moved up to 160 to face Menard, right? It was just a step too far, right? And there's no shame in that. Bivol was a great fighter, right? But it could be that what Canelo tried to do against Bivol and failed to do, Bud Crawford will fail in what he's trying to do with Canelo. It's like, and if he doesn't, if he wins, nothing will ever top what Duran did against Leonard. Right? Nothing will ever top that. So, one of the greatest wins in boxing history, right? What he did. But if Crawford is able to move up, and first of all, what people will probably say is, well, it's the same thing that happened when Pacquiao beat beat Oscar, right? To this day, people just say, "Well, I mean, Oscar was clearly done, right?" Um, but also, you have to always have to give credit to the fighter for, if he made him, he 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 delivered the death knell, you know. Um, but I think Canelo has more left in the tank than that Oscar that Pacquiao fought, and and I don't know if Crawford, as great as he is at his size, that I don't know if he's. And I know Canelo is not really. Canelo probably not a physically not a true 168 pounder, more like 160, and Crawford is Crawford had really kind of, he wasn't really making, I don't think, 47 anymore. So it's really, I don't know. Who knows? Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, because they're like the same height. But Canelo has just, been fighting it. Canelo, obviously, he's the bigger man. But, who knows? There's not even one situation where I'm sitting here and as I'm talking through it, I'm starting to actually come around to the idea of it. But it's just the optics of it, of somebody at 100 and who was just at a 147, and then we did one fight at 154, moving up to 168, and having a legitimate chance against a Hall of Fame fighter, first ballot Hall of Fame fighter who can still fight, right? It's just historically, that's not something that anybody would think was really feasible, right? But people didn't think that Pacquiao beating Oscar was feasible, right? So I don't know. It's going to show. I think it's going to show just how great uh, Crawford is. Because they're I actually think isn't Bud is older than Canelo. Canelo will be 35 in July, and Bud is how old is Bud? Let me see. I think Bud is like my age. Isn't Bud like 30? Yeah, Bud is 37 already. But Bud will be 38, so Bud will turn 38 2 weeks after the fight. So he's basically 3 years older than Canelo is. He is 3 years older than Canelo. So I don't know, man. It's asking a lot, right? And like I said, he's a darn good. He's like a Mayweather 37. He's not a he's not an old 37, but he like I said, it's just gonna be interesting, man. But it is a lot to. The thing he has going for him is that they are the same height, right? Canelo should be the stronger man, but I don't know. It's just hard to kind of, like I said, the idea of it, right? He was just like a year and a half ago. He was at 47 beating Spence, and now he's going to be at 68 fighting Canelo, and Canelo's been fighting it, in that weight. Number is how you say it for some years now. Let me see how long Canelo's been fighting at 168. Canelo got to 168, and Canelo got to super middleweight in. Canelo been at super middleweight since 2018. That was his first fight at super middleweight. So how the hell is Crawford? When I say that Canelo is probably not a true super middleweight, because how can you be 5'7" and be a true super middleweight, right? Because James Toney was 5'9". Bernard was. I mean, we know Bernard doesn't really count because Bernard was just like a giant, right? Roy Jones was 5'10" though. Bernard would always keep his. Bernard just stayed in such fantastic shape that he. Bernard stayed in such fantastic shape that he was able to stay in weight classes that he really didn't belong in at his size and with his build. But he was. But yeah, like you think about guys like that, Andre Ward. Andre Ward was Those were like five. I think Moore was like five. Andre Moore was taller. Andre Moore was like 6 feet. So he wouldn't. You wouldn't imagine. Nobody would say, okay, like Canelo versus uh, Bernard Hopkins or Andre Ward. Nobody would. Oh, but Bernard didn't even fight. Bernard fought it. No, Bernard skipped 168, didn't he? But I'm saying, we think of him in those terms with those fighters. Like that, like Joe Kozaki was. No, wait, Bernard did not. Bernard did fight at 168. I'm sorry. What am I talking about? Yeah, but Bernard fought he fought Kozaki at hold on a second. Where did Bernard fight Kozaki at? What weight class? They must have fought at light heavyweight. Yeah, so Bernard he skipped right from middleweight to after the Tarver fight. That was at middleweight, and he skipped light heavyweight. So Bernard skipped super middleweight. But yeah, we think of him in those terms of anybody who ever fought between 160 and 175. We think of Bernard Hopkins in those terms, even though he technically skipped 168. But you would never say, you know, Canelo versus Bernard Hopkins, Canelo against Andre Ward, Canelo against Roy Jones. Nobody would ever even propose such mythical, fights, right? So, I guess that would give Crawford a better chance because they are more similar in size, right? But then again, like you also wouldn't ask, Crawford to fight those same guys, right? Nobody would even think of that. That's like saying, okay, Mayweather fight Bernard Hopkins, fight Andre Ward, right? It doesn't make any sense. So, that's how that shapes up. Hopefully, when the fight gets closer, like fight week, maybe I'll be able to get Jason. He always resists coming on here. Maybe I'll be able to get him to come on here and chat it up with me. And we can do a formal fight preview for that one. But so guess what? I decided to start doing the outro again. It's a little bit different than when I used to do it, but yeah. So basically, before I get out of here, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button next to the Complete Podcast Network, and to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network. You can also send feedback and mailbag questions to Complete Lakers Podcast at gmail.com. I am out.